we can come to a passage like Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, and we can miss the forest for the trees. We can miss the point of Genesis 1 because we're so concerned with figuring out, like, all right, on the first day, God, it says like God didn't create the sun until the third day. Then how was there light on the first day and all this stuff? And people are trying to figure out, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. I just put forth to you that let's not waste our time looking at maybe what could be or trying to crack some code. But let's look just honestly at the word and see what God has to say to us and what he's really just revealing to us. And this is the big idea, I think, of what Genesis 1 and 2 is about. God's revealing to us, as Moses is writing, we're going to get into all this, he's revealing to us that from the beginning, he's been operating as a gracious giver. That's the point. The point of Genesis 1 is not to figure out how old the earth is the snake literal, why there was a tree in the garden, all this kind of stuff, why they were naked and unashamed. Well, what does that mean? That's not really the point. The point is that God spoke everything into existence. And so as we look at this, let's look at the whole book of Genesis, not as moral stories that we look at and we see these heroes that we are to imitate and emulate, and we're to be like Adam. No, we don't want to be like Adam. Let's be like Abel. Let's be like Cain. No, we don't want to be like him. And you start looking through people and you're like, none of them are heroes. A careful look through the book of Genesis and you'll see that these aren't moral stories with heroes that we are to imitate. Everyone's just a huge failure, honestly. You look at everybody. You look at Noah, and it seems like he's got things going good. They get off the ark, and then he gets wasted and falls asleep in his tent, and his kids see him naked. It's like, well, everyone's honestly just a big failure. And the point of Genesis is not to look at these people and say, oh, I want to be like Abraham. God calls me to go into a far country. I'll go. Yeah, maybe that's okay. That's good to think that way. But the point of Genesis is to whet our appetite for Jesus. The point of Genesis is to look that God created everything by grace. Then we fell into sin and ruined everything. Then God starts promising that he is going to come and make right by his righteousness what we have made wrong by our sin. So Genesis is supposed to be pointing us to God's grace, and specifically God's grace in Jesus Christ.